The cry was so weak that at first, Armin thought it was the wind slipping through the broken buildings along the roadside. He was already late, his mind heavy with unpaid bills, a sick mother waiting at home, and a life that never seemed to slow down enough to let him breathe. Then the sound came again, small, desperate, trembling. He stopped. Something in that cry reached past his exhaustion and wrapped around his heart. When he turned toward the narrow alley, he saw it, a tiny dog cub standing in the shadows, ribs showing beneath muddy fur, eyes wide with fear and hope at the same time. The cub took a few unsteady steps forward and sat, lifting one paw as if begging. Armin had seen poverty, pain, and loss, but he had never seen a creature plead so silently and so deeply for help. Armin knelt slowly, afraid that any sudden movement might scare the cub away. "Hey, little one," he whispered, his voice breaking despite himself. The cub didn't run. Instead, it whimpered and crawled closer, pressing its cold body against Armin's shoe. When Armin reached out, the cub licked his fingers, then turned and walked a few steps into the alley, stopping to look back. It barked softly, urgently, as if asking him to follow. Armin hesitated. He had no time for detours, no money for vet bills, and no space in his already crowded life. Yet his feet moved on their own. Some moments don't ask permission, they simply demand to be answered. The alley smelled of damp concrete and rust. Broken crates and torn plastic bags lined the walls. The cub moved with purpose now, leading Armin deeper until they reached a pile of old cloth and cardboard. Suddenly, the cub began to cry again, louder this time, pawing at the pile. Armin's chest tightened. He pulled the cloth aside and froze. Beneath it lay a mother dog, barely breathing, her body thin and weak, eyes half closed. She had clearly given everything she had to keep her cub alive, and now she had nothing left. The cub pressed itself against her, crying, then looked up at Armin as if to say, "Please. This is why I brought you." Armin swallowed hard, fighting the tears burning his eyes. He had lost his father years ago, watching helplessly as sickness slowly stole him away because they couldn't afford proper treatment. The memory rushed back, raw and painful. "Not again," he whispered. He gently touched the mother dog's side. She was alive, but barely. Every instinct told him this was beyond what he could handle. Yet walking away felt impossible. He pulled out his phone and called the nearest animal shelter. No answer. He tried a vet clinic, closed. Panic crept in. Time was slipping away. With no other choice, Armin carefully wrapped the mother dog in his jacket and lifted her into his arms. The cub barked and stayed close, refusing to be left behind. Armin walked fast, ignoring the curious stares of passers-by. Every step felt heavier than the last, his arms shaking, his heart racing. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stop. Finally, he reached a small, old veterinary clinic he remembered from years ago. The lights were on. He knocked until his knuckles hurt. A tired-looking veterinarian opened the door, surprise flashing across her face. "Please," Armin said, his voice cracking, "she's dying." The vet took one look and rushed them inside. The next hours passed in a blur of antiseptic smells, hushed voices, and anxious waiting. Armin sat on the floor with the cub in his lap, stroking its head as it trembled. He whispered promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Around them, the world felt suspended, balanced on a fragile thread of hope. When the vet finally returned, her expression was serious but gentle. "She was severely dehydrated and malnourished," she said. "If you'd come any later," she didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she smiled softly. "But she's stable now. She's a fighter." Armin let out a breath he felt he'd been holding his entire life. The cub barked happily, tail wagging for the first time, as if it understood that its plea had been answered. Over the next few weeks, Armin visited the clinic every day. He brought leftover food, blankets, and even convinced a few shop owners to donate supplies. The story of the cub that begged a man for help spread through the neighborhood, and people who once passed each other without a word began to connect. The mother dog slowly regained her strength. Her eyes grew brighter, her steps steadier. The cub grew playful and bold, no longer afraid of the world. One evening, as Armin sat outside the clinic watching the sun dip below the horizon, the vet approached him. "They're ready to go," she said. "If you want them." Armin looked at the mother and her cub, now healthy, standing side by side. He thought about his small home, his struggles, his fears. Then he thought about that moment in the alley, the choice to stop, to listen, to care. He smiled. "They already chose me," he replied. The day Armin brought them home, his mother's face lit up in a way he hadn't seen in years. The house felt warmer, fuller. Laughter returned. The cub slept at Armin's feet every night, and the mother dog followed him everywhere, her eyes filled with quiet gratitude. In saving them, Armin realized something unexpected: he had saved a part of himself too. Sometimes, help doesn't come in loud voices or grand gestures. Sometimes, it comes as a small, trembling cry in a dark alley, asking you to stop, to care, to believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change lives. The dog cub begged a man for help that day, but what happened next proved that compassion, once answered, has the power to transform everyone it touches.